Alright, so welcome to another cheap hammer battle report. Today is going to be High Elves against the Vampire Counts. Now, before moving into the battle report, I have to say one thing. There was just a couple of mistakes while making my list. Well, really it wasn't not in the list making, it was more in the performing during the game because there were some rules that were not uh, I took them or considered them how they used to be back in fantasy and apply those rules directly just to old world, not taking in consideration that the rules change completely, especially in the case of the corpse card. So yeah, there were some inconsistencies there, which gave me a big advantage over my brother's army. But still, I mean, the strategy is pretty solid. I mean, just like you gotta take in consideration that it had an unfairly advantage, and that's why there was a victory on my side. Still, I'm going to narrate the battle and the battle report as it played out, and it's all about learning. I played the Empire as my first army when we started doing these battle reports. And of course, there was going to be lots of mistakes, lots of forgotten rules. But I think the best way that you can get accustomed to the game is just by playing the game. Just play it, read your books, play the game, read your books, play the game, because then you come up to the situations that happen in the game, and that just forces you to find the specific rules that you need to apply to a certain circumstance. And also, the other important thing is that um, when those rules appear or when those situations happen, it gives you the chance to discuss with your opponent what would be the best path forward or what could you do. Mostly when I get into these situations, I just obviously just throw a dice. It's always a typical um, binary situation. Either it is yes or either it is no. Like for example, can this unit actually take can we just take cover within this woodland realm or this open space or etc. And then we say like, well, they seem to be covered, but how about if we throw a dice? On 1, 2, 3, they are not covered, and at 4, 5, 6, they are under cover. And then we let it to chance. So you got a 50-50 chance. And that gives you, it could give you the advantage, or it can, or it can hinder you. But it's all about chance, and I think that's fair. Anyway, so getting into the lists on my side, it was a 3,000 point battle. I put a big unit from going from the right to the left. There's a big unit of, they were like 20 ghouls, something like that. Yeah, 20 ghouls. Behind it, 20 zombies. Next to it, a big bulky unit of Grave Guard, 40 of them. Next to it, 60 skeleton spearmen. And I put in this list, I think it was 5 vampire thralls, all of them with heavy armor, great weapon, shield, and level 1 wizard, dark magic, signature spell, Doombolt. And behind it, there is one Mortis engine, which had the arcane tome, and a level 1 wizard with, I think it was also, yeah, of course, dark magic, because why wouldn't you? Next to it, a corpse card with a level 1 wizard necromancy, which this is one of those parentheses that I want to make. I thought it could switch to dark magic, but no, the necromancy that you get on the corpse card only can use necromancy. You have to throw whatever spell he can cast, but that's why, for example, and right now I can say it easily, the corpse card is not really good performing. At least I don't really see a value to it. I mean, if you put it with the blazer or with the, I think the other thing is it's a bell. Like the blazer, what it does is like it takes -1 to your enemy's casting. It puts a -1 on your enemy's casting spells, but the problem is like you're mostly not going to be in range, so it's pretty much a useless. It's a useless rule or a useless bonus, I would say. Unless you are going to get into multiple combats where the enemy is going to use a lot of assailment spells, I really don't see any real benefit from this. And the Mortis engine, the only thing is the +1 when it's all about casting, but it has a side effect. Like, I don't understand why they put this expensive unit that gives you +1 to casting, but it can make you more damage than it can actually benefit you, because in on any double that you cast on your casting rolls, if you have a miscast, you have to roll twice and applies twice the damage, both of those results. So it pretty much means that if you get like I think it was like magical cascade, or I don't remember, magic the detonation one that has a template. Now you gotta put two templates and wipe out your unit. It's like, come on, it shouldn't have that. I mean, it has its advantages, scarcely. It has three branches, which what I mentioned before. It's like they have the Wailing Dirge and everything, but against high leadership units and things like that, they rarely make their mark. And if you go against armies, like for example, was what I recommended my brother, why don't you go for a bolt thrower? And then since it's such a large target, you had 48 inches of like range. You can just easily just bolt throw it, just keep throwing them, and there's no way that the thing can take any cover. And it has a very, very, very shitty armor save and a very shitty regeneration save. So it just defeats the purpose. For that +1 casting, you might as well just put more vampire throws and just go for the odd chance that you're gonna get your doom bolts all casted at the same time. Since you're away from the casting range, which is 18 and 24, so you got a pretty good chance of just getting your casting rolls and just catapulting bolt throw doom bolts against your enemy, and that's it. Anyway, I'm going way off topic. Of course, one of them has the battle standard bearer of the Drakenhof banner. Next to it, I got another unit of ghouls, which just my crypt horrors, but I'm just playing them as my ghouls. Another small unit of zombies behind it, and next to it, another unit of zombies, just to cover that flank. On the side of my brother, he decided to play a list with. He is using a big unit of going from right to left. Dragon Princess of Calador, and next to it a unit of White Lions of Grace, which he's playing with his Sword Masters of Coeb as if they were the White Lions. Unit of Bloodthorn Seaguard, 6 ranks, I think it is. Another unit of Bloodthorn Seaguard with Aisha. Next to it, the White Lions of Grace. Behind it, there is the dragon. I think no, he actually played the Frost Phoenix on this one, trying to get a -1 to hit on my units. And next to it is like a unit of Dragon Prince of Calador. Now, the thing with the -1 to hit, I don't think it's very beneficiary mm, when it comes to vampire counts. I mean, like, I'm already throwing terribly. I'm just going for numbers. Maybe it would be good for the vampire counts and everything. But I think it's more a liability, that unit, than actually is beneficial. Anyway, let's go to the first round. So on the first what is it? On the first turn, I got turn number one. I think it was him or me. I don't remember who got turn one, but I mobilized everything to the front. Some of my graveguard got, I think it was the graveguard, I don't know who. Oh, some skeletons got killed by his arrows. But as you can see, one of his units next to the Frost Phoenix. Oh, by the way, this battle, it's the battle number 3, which you get like 6 inches from the small side of the board. You got 6 inches on either side, and it's impassable terrain. So you flee through it. You can't flee through it. The only units that can move through it is the ethereal and the flying ones. But if you have to flee, if you go through it, you just bounce back and you just keep coming back to battle. You just gotta return. So you can hunt down units using the boards. You can do some other strategies. I haven't got to that point, or we haven't got to that point in the game in which we utilized necessarily the environment for a strategic advantage. It rarely comes into play since my brother and I play really nasty. We just go for destruction of our both armies. We don't even pay attention to the objectives. I mean, it's kind of like a bonus, but sometimes your units are not gonna reach to the other side, and especially with all the onslaught that we uh, just shoot at each other. I mean, like without mercy. Like mostly the units just don't reach the other side. Anyway, it has two objectives on each side, and they're literally in the middle of the deployment zone of each one of us. I have the Goblin King from the Hobbit throne room, which is like a toilet, and he has like one of those chaos altars from the times of Storm of Magic. Those are the objectives. I don't remember how many points, but it didn't even came into play, so there's no sense into yeah, mentioning it. Anyway, it came later because he actually lost his objective, like was away of the range where you can start claiming those victory points, and I was pretty close to mine, so I didn't have any problem with it. Anyway, so what happened? What's the big deal? What's the news over here? So I casted so many Doom Bolts into one unit of his Lothern Sigurd, effectively just wiping it out from the map. This is why I say, like you got a better choice just going for vampire throws. Here's the thing. Now, this is what I've learned. You got a vampire count and you're gonna a very tough and elite warrior in the game. Like, it's not really necessary to use a vampire count. Honestly, it doesn't. I mean, like, the only advantage that I could see is probably that you get a good warrior and a decent wizard at the end, because you can just make him a level 2 wizard and then buy him black master of the black arts, I think it is, and then he becomes a level 3 wizard, which activates the 2 plus casting. Regardless of not being a level 4, it activates the 2 plus casting. And I mean, you get some spells. It depends what strategy we want to play. Maybe some vortexes, or maybe something else. Or maybe you want to use the enchantments from the lore of the undead. Maybe you want to play him that way. Maybe you can play it, you get an extra Doom Bolt. You can put a Doom Bolt on him. And of course, you go for Dark Magic, you go for Doom Bolt, and you see what other magic appears. And then you can switch it for one of the Aurora of the Undead. Because you're going to eventually switch anything for the Doom Bolt. It's a great, 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 great projectile uh, spell, and it's the substitution in Vampire Count's armies for having a lack of range units, so you can just dump bolt your enemies. It's fairly cheap price for the damage that it can put into armies that have lower resistance, lower toughness. Sorry, like the high elves. Anyway, so just like I cast all my doom bolts with an unfair advantage, I must say, because I used +1 casting from my corpse card and +1 casting from my Mortis engine. So I had a +1 casting that wasn't meant to be. That's the one from the corpse card. The one from the Mortis engine applies. But the one from the corpse card, it was a mistake, and we discussed it later and we let it pass. But then the next time, that mistake won't be repeated because the corpse card is not going to be integrated to the army. Simple as that. As well as the Mortis engine, you might as well just spend your money or your points, however you want to name the currency of what old world allows you to put units into: points, currency, gold, dollars, whatever you want to name it. But you might as well just save that amount of points and just invest it in something else. You could just buff your units better, or you could just buy more heroes. Just more vampire thralls, more something like that. Of course, this is a massive battle. It's 3,000 points, so you're going to be able to spend more into different sorts of things. Anyway, so it almost wiped out that unit, and eventually his hero fled from that unit to the next one. But in his side, took a couple of shots at my units. I'm moving all my hordes to the front. Probably he casted Shield of Zephyr. He always goes for high magic because why wouldn't you? It's one of the greatest magics. And all my casualties over there with the skeletons are from Fiery Convocation, which is a great spell to use against undead. Now here's what we discussed. In this battlefield, in this particular battle, we decided to use the rule in which any single wound lost when it comes to crumbling also gets the benefit of the regeneration 5 plus if you have Drakenhof banner, or regeneration 6 plus if you don't have the Drakenhof banner. We decided to play it that way, which makes the undead units a little bit more tougher, more difficult to bring down. I think it's a good thing, but also I believe that it's kind of a stretch. But when it comes to the way that Games Workshop phrased it, that's the problem. It's like they didn't phrase it really well, so it gets to these situations in which you don't know if the rule applies or not. But just for the next battles that we're gonna have, we're just not going to apply the rule because I think it's way too much. It's for having 4 saves. It's like it's definitely a lot. Anyway, let's go to next picture. In the next picture, everything advances to the front. On my side, uh, that sack over there that is next to the unit of my skeletons, it was probably some curse or something that he threw at me. Um, don't really remember which one it is or what exactly it is. It may well be a vortex, but I believe I don't know what it was at this point. So it doesn't matter. Anyway, so everything moves, and as I said before, the main thing over there in the battle line of my brother is that he moved his hero from that unit of Lothar Sigurd into the next one. Now, when it comes to the characters on those big um, plates that you see on the bottom, those are the movement trays that I created with a little bit of cardboard and some magnets, so I can keep the units on more tight formations just for the purposes of battle. But the thing about it is, like, sometimes when it comes to my army, you will see that I always put dices behind, and those are the hit point dices. Since my characters, especially the skeletons or zombies, these miniatures are very delicate. Even you keep moving them with your fingers and just using your fingers to because they got magnets on the bottom, so they can be attached to the platform. And if you keep attaching them and reattaching them, they're just gonna break. So what I use is like a system in which I just put like dices that signify the amount of wounds that the unit has. And once the amount of dice reach 10, I just remove the unit, because in infantry I just leave blocks of 10, 5 in the front, 5 in the back. It's easy to move, and it goes with the rules of how a rank should be. I haven't come into opportunity to use the 4 rank formation for purposes of like marching in column. But when it comes to the undead, they cannot even march in column, so it doesn't even matter. The only thing that they can do is just cast spells to order to try to get to that thing. What was it called? I think it's the one that gives them the reserve move. Van Hels's Dance Macabre, or the other one. Anyway, everything moves. He's preparing for some charges, but does move the Frostfart Phoenix. The main thing is the unit of Lothar Sigurd is almost wiped out, so I'm just probably going to do the thing in the next picture. Let's see. Everything moves to the front in the next picture. Dragon Princess of Galador charge the ghouls. The same on the other side. Dragon Princess of Galador charging the ghouls. Frost Phoenix moving to the front. His unit of Lothar Sigurd march backwards, try to avoid more damage because they don't gonna get wiped out. But with the new rules, 50% of the unit is wiped out. It counts as victory points. On my side, probably the Grave Guard is going to move a little bit forward. I didn't move the battle line too much because I didn't saw any sense in it, or perhaps it wasn't my turn and I just received charges. Anyway, so let's see, and probably it's for the best, because since I got infantry, I want to receive the charges so I get the extra attacks from the back. Anyway, well, let's go to the next picture. Next picture, so an overview of the same thing. It's like, let's see, yeah, I mean, like, I cast, I think, some Doom Bolts at his unit of White Lions of Grace, I think. The whole battle line stays pretty much in the same place. The unit of the ghouls have almost decimated his entire unit of Dragon Princess of Galador, which is also a terrible loss on the side of his army. Casting Doom Bolts into his unit of, I don't know which unit did I hurt right now more. I think it was the Dragon Princess. I think it was the White Lions of Grace. I don't remember. And the ghouls on the other side, sustaining damage as well and doing some damage in return to his Dragon Princess of Calador. So it's, yeah, it's not really looking great for the High Elves. Let's see the next picture to see what happens. In the next picture, yeah, well, the death toll of the High Elves has escalated. Moved the I cast so many Doom Bolts at the other unit of Lothar Sigurd, so I completely wiped it out, almost wiped it out. So there's pretty much nothing just able to battle anymore from that unit. Um, and I think I cast one more Doom Bolt to the remainder of the other one because it was like three guys, and his hero got caught also in the backlash and got defeated. His unit of Dragon Princes are moving forward. Probably I can stop them a little bit with my units of zombies over there, just to avoid getting into physicality with them before just unleashing the attacks of my vampire counts against his unit. The Frostfire Phoenix was defeated. It didn't require much. I just used the screams, play -2 to his leadership, and he rolled a pretty high one, and then he got wiped out. Doombolts cast, as I said, to the Lothar Sigurd, so they got completely destroyed. Now the White Lions of Grace are charging against the Great Guard, so I got the advantage here, so probably I'm just gonna kill all of them. Let's see what happens in the next picture. In the next picture, the unit of White Lions of Praise with Core Hill charge into my unit of skeletons, and we engage into multiple duels in which my thralls are getting dueled by each one of his White Lions. Ultimately, the vampire count killing it in the process. The unit of Dragon Princess of Calador on the other side, charging to a unit of zombies, effectively stopping them. The Grave Guard is wiping out most of the White Lions of Grace, because since they don't get the charge and the Furious Charge anymore, you just got one attack, and I just keep using my extra attacks on the back to just localize them into his unit and just effectively killing them. Um, yeah, so the vampire can. So I'm trying to use my attacks from my vampire thralls as fast as I can against the unit of White Lions to try to wipe them as fast as possible. And he is trying to avoid the confrontation from my vampire lord with Corhill. Because yeah, Corhill has killing blow, but if he doesn't get it, I can easily just kill him. That's just two wounds. And let's see the next picture. So yeah, this is the one of the last pictures. I think it was the last. White Lions on one side got completely killed by the Grave Guard. One zombie stood over there against the Dragon Princess of Calador on the right side. Behind me, that's my dead pile, just a bunch of dead undead people. Um, but it's not really much points, to be honest. It's not really substantial. But behind him is his death pile, which is enormous. His leader, his general was Aisha, got killed. His two units of Lothar Sigurd, one unit of his White Lions. All my vampires are putting too much damage into his unit of White Lions on the other side, effectively killing them. So he's got not much army to keep fighting. Of course, the Great Guard is probably going to wipe out those two Dragon Princes when they start approaching into combat, because I got great weapons. So it's not gonna be tough. On the other side, the Dragon Princes are charging into the zombies, but I'm going to use the Wailing Dirges to try to like clear them more a little bit, and then charge it with this thing. At the end, the battle standard bearer on his side died, and just a bunch of units died. So we compacted the numbers plus the victory points that I get for being closer to my objective, and it was a devastating defeat for the High Elves of Vault One, and a victory for the Vampire Counts. Now here's the thing. Regardless of what the corpse card, that it was just a cheap, it was just like on road rule that was misinterpreted and misused, and it gave certainly an advantage. It doesn't change much in the idea of what the ballistic big Death Star of the vampire counts really can put in terms of damage against armies that have an average toughness of 3. Because Doombolt is the signature spell. So if you're going to use, that's why I mean in the last battle report, that's why I say if you're gonna go and put wizards that are level 1, be certain that the signature spell is a good choice. In this case, Dark Magic, it's the only available choice. The other thing that you can do, if you put, for example, a Necromancer level 1, you can just what I do is sometimes I put a necromancer level 1 with illusion, so I can cast the illusion spell, which is a self cast, so I can have a -1 to each one of the hits that they can try to do to my unit, so to make the unit more tougher. And you put a ruby ring on him, so you don't have to go for a level 2, you just put a ruby ring on him, and then he's going to have fireball. So you got a good enchantment on the beginning and then a fireball later on, so it increments um, to your ballistic unit, to your big Death Star that's just going to cast spells and try to create as much ballistic damage as possible before getting engaged into combat, if it gets to that point. So that's what I mean, it's like maybe a level 4 Necromancer and then a level 1 Necromancer. And you can use the level 4, whatever you want. I would just go for Dark Magic. Why? Because if he's in the big block, you can just cast the other one, which is this gives them frenzy and hatred, so you can just be more tougher when it comes to battle. So this is the kind of things that I would do, or that I would think that will be more beneficial. But as I said before, there is no benefit in the vampire lore, to be honest. It's like just put a level 4 necromancer with dark magic. And if you want to put the vampire, you might as well just go for another necromancer and maybe go for more some doom bolts, because I don't know, maybe you want to put the vampire lord. Just make sure that he's a level 3 so you can have the 2+ casting, so it's more worth it. Maybe you can arm him with that vampiric power that gives you terror, so you can make a big terror bomb over there. Once they charge you, they got to take the terror test every single time with 6 vampire thralls, and it just makes it really nasty. And if they cause fear or cause terror themselves, I think if they cause fear, then your terror becomes fear. But if they cause fear and they get the fear, they get a -1 and eventually -1. So think about glittering rock giving you a -1 and then fear giving you another -1. So they're gonna hit very hardly your unit, and you can retaliate with a lot of attacks. So I'd say go for that, and there's like these big fancy things like magical items. I just realized that barely in all the battle reports that I did and all the battles that I have done on Warhammer, some of them are useful, but most of them are trash. I mean, it's like the Skull Staff, for example, when you put it on a wizard from the Empire, unless you want to cast a lot of, put it on a level 4. So you get a +1 to level, so you're gonna cast on 3, but it's just magic missiles and vortexes. So make sure you get Fireball or Doombolt or something like that, so you could just be certain that you're gonna cast something that really could cause damage to your enemy. And take in consideration the toughness, because if it's a unit, if it's the overall army is just toughness 4 or above, then toughness, then spells that are strength 3 are really not going to do much damage. You're just going to be shooting those doom bolts, and those units are going to be very bulky, so the small temple is not going to catch a lot of them, and then you're going to throw 4 dice on 5s, and it's really like the probability are already stacked against you, and you're probably going to cause 1 wound out of all of this, maybe 2, and it's not the desirable measure that you want. What you want to happen, you want to cast your spell, and you want to engage as many units as you can that have lower toughness, and then bring them all down. That's why it's important, that thing. If you go against tougher armies, you might as well make your you might as well just save those points from the Doombots, because not really very effective against a big toughy army, and put them all into assailment spells or things like that. Maybe if you want, if you don't, it's not really an issue. Maybe you can just make more vampire thralls that are just great weapons, vampire thralls, great weapons, heavy armor, vampire thralls. So you can just stack them over there in a unit and just put reserve move. Just use them and put them in the graveyard. If you want to get them closer to battle, so you can just get that one with reserve move, and the rest of them move them faster with the Van Helsing's Macabre. You want to create that battle bubble to go and just go and get into battle as fast as possible so you can get your vampires into combat. Maybe some of the fucking uh, maybe some of the magical items now they can really make a difference. But when it comes to the other things, when it comes to fancier equipment and things like that, it's very specific, but you have to keep it in mind with what purpose is this going to serve, But it makes you work your economics much better when you're assembling your army because the things that you put on the battlefield have a purpose and that purpose has to be fulfilled. In this case, I put them all level ones with Doom Bolt as the signature spell, so you can just cast as much as possible and try to wipe down one unit at the beginning of the battle because that gives you already an advantage. You're already winning in the game. If you don't use that strategy, then certainly what you're gonna get is just gonna get you're just anxious to try to get into some combat. But what I've seen in the battle reports that I've made and the battles that I did is that melee sometimes you get into melee, most times you don't. Um, but it depends on what kind of army you have. You can make a pretty good melee army with the vampire counts. But as I say, I like to play with a lot of vampire thralls. I like to put a lot of vampires in the army and necromancers because the army, well, I mean, it's implicit in the name. It's called vampire counts. It's not called the skeleton empire. So that's how I like to call them. Anyway, so that was it for this battle report. I hope you like it, and we'll see you on the next one.